The reason this Texas textbook thing is a problem is because of the state control of education. Whenever what is taught and what is labeled truth is centralized, you give the people who manage the information centers unearned power. That is, the ability of the Texas school board to control what people think does not come from them being great authors or great orators or having had made great predictions in the past. It comes from a belief in the state. A belief in the state, and this is an example of that corruption that comes from unearned power, and that unearned power comes from a belief in the state. So the problem is again the state, and to eliminate this problem you eliminate the state, and so the actual root of the problem and the actual solution to the problem is very simple and straightforward, and will not be done because everyone believes state control and forced attendance to the education camps is good for one reason or another. But the Amazing Atheist has the gall to be outraged by Texas dropping Thomas Jefferson from the curriculum and instead teaching some other religious fools. But TJ's outrage is totally selective. Where is the outrage over how the U.S. Constitution is taught? The Constitution is a document giving the federal government unlimited power. And I make that case in a little post on Tumblr, and I'll link to that in the description. Where is the outrage over how the Barbary War, the War of 1812, and the Revolutionary War is taught? Where is the outrage over the pro-state bias in the teaching of Shays' Rebellion and the Whiskey Rebellion? Where is the outrage over how Upton Sinclair's book, The Jungle, was used to pass legislation that Upton Sinclair himself opposed? And that's something that most people don't know because it's not taught. But Sinclair opposed the Meat Inspection Act that was passed as a result of his book, because he knew that it was nothing more than a boon for the big meat packers. It was a barrier to entry to keep out the smaller meat packers so the big meat packers could cartelize and raise rates. All right? Sinclair knew that because he knows how the game is played. All right? But that's not taught. All right? So where's the outrage over that? And I'll have a link in the description to an article written by a guy called Of Meat and Myth. Or how about the mythology of the railroad robber barons, who were unable to cartelize and raise rates on a free market, so they had to get land grants. And these land grants were localized monopolies enforced by the state. And yet free markets get the blame. So where's the outrage over that? These railroad lines were not able to cartelize, and so they had to have state-enforced monopolies. And so when they have state-enforced monopolies, competitors can't go into these areas that are granted to these companies. And so these rail lines can raise rates, and they don't have to worry about new competition forming to try to undercut them. Right? And that's how they were able to work it. So yes, there were robber barons, but they could not do it on a free market. They had to have the state. Yet the free market gets the blame. So where's your outrage over that? And did you know that in 1919 there was a dip in the stock market greater than the dip in 1929? Yet you had the Depression of 1920, and it ended quickly because the resources could be easily reallocated because the market was still relatively free. But in 1929, 16 years after the founding of the Federal Reserve, which was supposed to eliminate the business cycle, we had the greatest depression yet. Where's the outrage over that? Over how it is taught that the state, like God, could plan and intervene in the structure of production above and outside the market, as if there's any entity that can do that. Or where's the outrage over how it is taught that American intervention in World War II was necessary to defeat Nazi Germany, even though the Germans were already contained at Stalingrad and El Alamein before the Americans had any significant impact on the war? And how 90% of German losses came from the Soviets. Where's the outrage over that? Or how Hitler wanted to deport all of the people, the unclean or whatever people he ended up killing. He just wanted to deport them, but he couldn't because of the American closed border policy that trapped them in Europe. Where's the outrage over how we are to never forget the Holocaust? Yet the Holocaust could have been easily prevented had the American state not prevented those people from immigrating to the U.S. No outrage over that. Oh, no, none of that stuff is worth making videos about. The real problem, is not even state control and forced attendance of the education camps per se, but it's what some people on the head of a school board decided to be included in textbooks. That's the real problem right there. There's the outrage. And you say you want Texas to secede. Well, that's certainly nice. So where are your videos forthright and positively advocating secession? Where's your multi-part video series on why secession is a good thing and it's good for individuals to live, let geese fly, let ducks swim? Where's your videos on that? You bring it up and you tolerate it, but you only tolerate it and you only say you're okay with secession in response to these certain events. That doesn't mean shit. Secession takes positive action because it takes force to break the bonds of the state. Because right now, statism is the default. Unless you are positively agitating for secession, for breaking away at all levels down to the individual, then you are pro-centralized state. Because centralized state is the default. Anyway, your solution to this problem is the same solution you have to every problem. Use the guns of the state to force others to abide by your preferences. Your outrage is selective and ad hoc.